Now, I am super excited to introduce someone who I have a tremendous amount of respect for. She is just one of those rising stars or rising tides in the animal welfare movement, and I'm so glad I am a co-worker of hers and have gotten to meet and talk to her. Let me introduce to you tonight's speaker or presenter in the webinar. It's from Intake to Outcomes, Managing Summer Space Crises with Animal Case Management. We will now hear from Mara Hartzell, a shelter support advisor for American Pets Alive. And Mara, now I will turn off my camera and turn it over to you.
Thank you, Vincent. I'm excited to be here. And this is my first webinar, so super new experience, and I can't wait to start a conversation that means a lot to me. What I'm talking about today is a systems-based approach, tackling root causes that will help shelters of any shape or size figure out how to get more pets out. In this presentation, I'm going over 4 general action categories to help everyone get the lay of the land. And then as we go, I'll get specific and offer you more tools that will help you get comfortable using these categories. I consider this 1-hour webinar to be an introduction to case management, and I want to encourage anyone with questions, feedback, or just general interest in collaborating on this to reach out to me afterwards so we can continue the conversation. I've been working on a lot of templates lately, and I would love to share more with you and hear more about your needs so we can work together. My email will be listed at the end. Before diving in to this approach, which we're calling animal case management, I'd like to share a little about myself. I'm a former shelter director who ran a small open admission municipal shelter in Texas with about 1,500 animals a year, but I have a longer career history in education. My old jobs conditioned me to see problems through a case management lens, and so it was a big culture shock whenever I switched to animal welfare. What I saw was that our field doesn't give official value and space to case management. It's rarely in job descriptions, given resources and budgets, or discussed in everyday operations. In contrast, when I was an academic advisor, it was expected of me to have one-on-one meetings with students that lasted 30 to 45 minutes at a time, and for them to keep seeing me throughout the semester if they needed help. I needed to ask them questions about what they expected out of their future and hear how someone like me could help them make their future plans come true. If they needed accommodations, they came to me. If they needed to change their classes, they came to me. And I got to know a lot of them well. There were also mechanisms in place to flag students who were performing poorly academically, and it was my job to customize a plan for them so they could save their grades and finish their degrees. My caseload each semester was roughly 300 students, but it wasn't as chaotic as it sounds. Definitely not as chaotic compared to what it's like in shelters every day. I enjoyed my work in education and appreciated how it made me feel like I was making a difference for my students by practicing case management as best as I knew how. Case management is, simply put, understanding that students or animals are individuals who need help navigating a structured system, and that we can offer that help with standard and specially tuned interventions. I think we get hung up today because we inhabit a dated system that is factory-like in design. And we also work against ourselves by suppressing our needs and our animals' needs. What I find intriguing is that there is a pressure in animal welfare to turn off what makes us human, that makes us avoid seeking glimmers of hope and joy in our work. As hard as we may try, though, we can't become machines, and animals can't either. If our systems are designed to treat everybody the same, they will always freeze up and make errors when uniqueness is expressed. By working against ourselves to meet factory model expectations, we actually work far less productively. So we need to challenge the factory model. My position is that the problem of intakes outpacing outcomes in shelters isn't the real problem. Our factory-like systems are. The cool thing about case management as a work system is that it's not this complicated, unnatural thing that takes a long time to figure out or get into. It's something all of us are already doing as people who care about pets, and we don't need to undo what we already have. It's actually more about pausing for a moment to see the hidden potential we can work with a fresh perspective. I hope to help awaken that potential in whoever's listening. It's not chasing after the next new surface level thing or program that we plug into the factory model and inevitably get disappointed by. Why animal case management? Case management is trusted and true in other care sectors, an empowering way of looking at our shelter operations and programs, and it's a professional skill that directly impacts our bottom line. Case management helps us get rid of internal dysfunctions like duplication of effort, resource waste, workarounds, etc. It increases performance and it enhances everyone's sense of personal fulfillment. In a case management world, all hands are on deck and no one is left out of the big picture of honoring pets as individuals and getting them the results they deserve. Every human in our shelter network, including officers, techs, and volunteers, have a higher purpose. As a primer, I want to remind everyone watching and getting a little anxious about the case management term that you are already doing it, even if that's not what you call it. If you've gotten at least one pet fostered, adopted, or rescued, you've done case management. What I hope we can do next as an industry is accept that case management is perhaps the most critical piece to getting pets out. Start using it deliberately in our vocabulary and planning, and make what's only an art we sometimes get to right now into a daily science that is recognized by everyone and prioritized by systems. Why isn't it working if we're already doing it? Case management isn't working in its current state in shelters because most of us are laboring in bubbles, following the unreasonable demands of a depersonalized factory model and not communicating efficiently. It's fragmented and it's incomplete. Continuity is a central idea that gives animal case management its flow, and flow is extremely important. Like I said, to get a lay of the land, I'm covering the general before the specific by discussing 4 key functions of animal case management that we need to activate in order to achieve flow and therefore more live outcomes. And just FYI, these 4 functions are adapted from human continuity of care models, which have a lot of research behind them. With animal case management, bonding represents continuity in relationships. Remembering represents continuity in information. Planning represents continuity in policy. And advancing represents continuity in management. What I'd like to challenge everyone here with is see what you can learn from conceptualizing these 4 categories and auditing what you already have with them. As I work with shelters, I see a lot of confused questions like, why isn't my foster program working like others talk about? And my answer is that it could be that it's not you, it's not your program, it's not your community. It's that maybe one of your functions isn't being taken into account or being optimized. Again, for a long time, we've been looking at problems on the surface and not on a deeper level. I also used to make the mistake of thinking that if I could just get my program to look exactly like another successful shelter's, that would generate success, but unfortunately, it is not that simple. Let's get into some examples of forms these functions can take. And just as a disclaimer, there are endless ways of these taking form, which is why I'm not fixating on forms themselves tonight. I don't want anyone here to think because I don't have a formal behavior program or a staff of 25, I can't possibly do case management well. This is something anyone and everyone can get better at, I promise. And if you're a really small organization or even just a one-person show, it may be easier for you in some ways. You may be doing all the work, which is exhausting, but your work is integrated thanks to you being just one person, and you can easily self-correct. All of the 4 functions can be specially tailored to anyone. Without reading through everything on this slide, let me just read through the first line to illustrate how things can flow. With bonding, we have asking staff to spend their last 15 to 30 minutes of their shift with one pet. With remembering, we have having staff fill out a quick 2-minute form about them that has a list of personality traits ready to select. With planning, we have mapping, revising a protocol for how to use the data collected by your personality forms with purpose. And that flows into advancing, asking someone to oversee how thoroughly the protocol is being applied and what could be improved. Practical benefits of case management. When your shelter starts embracing smarter case management by strengthening the muscles of the 4 functions, you see faster results, resolve common pain points, and over time, it all begins to feel organized, automatic, and second nature. It also aligns more with what we all hoped to achieve when we first started working in animal welfare, which is making a difference in the lives of individual pets and in our whole animal population. Case management helps us pace ourselves enough to really do a task well, and we may actually enjoy it and feel like we've accomplished something in the end. It may sound silly, but you actually need to slow down before you can work faster. On top of working smoother for us, fluid case management systems prevents pets like Henry from falling through the cracks and losing momentum toward an outcome. What's done for one individual pet, on top of being meaningful in and of itself, gives the system feedback on itself. This encourages continuous improvement in our systems. If Henry finally gets adopted on day 180, for example, we can study what worked and what didn't work for a dog like him using the 4 functions, and then tweak special protocols, practices, etc. to shorten lengths of stay for others. What we learn from one pet can be applied to our general case management model and to our more specialized pathways. Henry is real. I chose to feature him specifically because he was one of my hardest cases to get out of the shelter. His needs colored outside the lines of my existing case management system, and he taught me how to improve all of our functions. With the bonding function, Henry taught me that it's best to have people with the strongest relationships facilitate meet and greets and photography sessions with pets, especially shy ones, so that pets present their best selves while having their safe person as a buffer and as an advocate. With the remembering function, Henry taught me to record more details about interactions over time so they could be shared with others, sort of in the form of a hero's journey. How scared Henry was when he came to us, how confidently he was facing new challenges in the present compared to the past, and how his progress destined him for a better future outside of the shelter, where he would become who he was always meant to be. With the planning function, Henry taught me that dogs who struggle significantly with shelter environment adjustment could benefit from creative solutions like off-site training programs. He became a behavior dog because of shelter stress, not because something was wrong with him. And he helped me understand that sensitive dogs need special protocols, considerations, and whenever possible, special environments. With the advancing function, Henry taught me that frequently marketing a dog while off-site was key to getting dogs like him placed into a foster or a forever home at the end of a program. So he wouldn't have to return to the environment that stressed him out so badly to begin with. We didn't see his board and train stay as a convenient pause or a break, but as something that actually heightened urgency. That paid off. He went straight to a foster home with the help of his kind trainer, who facilitated several meet and greets, and he was eventually adopted by that family. Next, what we learn from case management inside the shelter can also inform how we approach the outside. Many of us are panicked because all of our kennels are full, and we may be communicating that constantly, which is good, but it's not performing as well as we had hoped. We're all giving the same bat signal at the same time without realizing that Batman isn't in a place to see it or knows what to do with it. When we signal a need for help, we should start conversations with a single pet or just a few, who people can connect with and visualize a bond with, and then present a doable ask for anyone whose eyes we catch. Instead of saying, we're 187% full with 200 dogs on site and need adopters now, which may rattle minds but not connect hearts, try something like Henry, who's a gentle, devoted, and well-mannered companion, is one of 200 dogs on site who urgently need out. Here's his picture. If you can't take Henry home for a sleepover, a weekend out, or adopt him, could you share his face with your unique network? Your personal stamp of kindness matters and may be exactly what Henry needs to find this person. Basically, people need you, a system insider, to help them see, understand, and guide choices about individual pets so they can give you the outcomes you want. If your expectations become too big, or if you give people an overwhelming sense of duty or responsibility, they will freeze and disengage. Your special ability to make meaning out of information and connect dots is very critical to success with outcomes. If you feel like your shelter systems are getting better tuned, but you still aren't seeing more results, here are just a few troubleshooting areas I encounter often. They all break down somewhere in continuity, and I'll give viewers just a few seconds to read through that. Things to remember as we close. I want to acknowledge again how there are shelters watching that have very different shapes and sizes. All of us will see the 4 functions show up in different forms, and not every form will fit your shelter. Give yourself some time and space to explore this system and find what works for you. If the idea of a case management system is still giving you anxiety, understand that over time, because your length of stay decreases and you become more efficient in general with this practice, the people in your system will not have to split their time up between so many pets at once. At my old shelter, for example, we had between 100 and 150 pets on site in the beginning, and then after about a year, our average stayed between 30 and 60 pets on site. This was in my early days before I really knew what I was doing and knew how my community and environment would respond to changes. Don't think it will take you a year to get traction. That was just my personal journey. And with that, I will close with an end slide that contains my contact information. Again, thank you for your patience with the first presentation that had some technology issues. I hope you enjoyed this version, and I would love to hear from you via email if you have any thoughts or ideas.